and gentlemen, our special guest tonight is no stranger to the world of 40 and paranormal topics. He's been a pillar of the communities forever. Lon Strickler is our guest today, and he is author of several books and also has a podcast of his own, which is Phantoms and Monsters Radio. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got an epic show ahead, but just remember, if any of you have experiences you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can either email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or head over to paranormalportal.net. Scroll down and find the button that says Interview Me, and that'll allow you to look at a calendar of possible times and dates and find a date that works for you. Love to hear your stories, so definitely get in touch with me. Joining us, ladies and gentlemen, is the man himself, Mr. Phantoms and Monsters, Mr. Lon Strickler. How you doing, Lon?
I'm hanging in there, man.
You are, brother. You are. Thanks so much for joining us, man. It's a great pleasure to have you here. You're one of those faces that has really done a lot to really push all of this forward. You've been, as I said before, really a pillar in the community in terms of coordinating and educating and giving a voice to a lot of people with experiences and encounters. It's been an incredible journey, huh?
Yeah, I've been doing this a long time. I don't know if it's all good and all bad or whatever, but it is what it is. And, I've been doing the blog now for 18th would be my 18th year.
Wow.
And, so it keeps me busy.
Yeah, no doubt. And how many books have you written? How many is it up to now?
Well, I've written 9.
9.
And,
okay.
I've published 9, and there's 4 of them in print right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. And your show, Phantoms and Monsters Radio, can you explain a little bit about what you do there?
Well, I've been involved with doing podcasts and interviews and such online for, I guess, about maybe 12 years or so now. Oh. And I started out with a couple other people. Started out with Beyond the Edge Radio with Eric Altman and Sean Forker, and we all started out together. And as time went by, we kind of had some different innovations of the show. But I decided about 2 years ago to go ahead and go onto YouTube and kind of go from Arcane Radio to Phantoms and Monsters Radio. Mm-hmm. And it was mostly interviews and such with people that are in the paranormal community, but with my archive and everything that keeps coming in all the time, I decided that the majority of the show is going to be me reading cases and reports that come into me, cases our team does, and I do have a fairly large team, Phantoms Monsters 14 research team, and talk about that. And then, we also, it's all live, and I answer questions in the chat during the show. So it's kind of a presentation and question and answer session all in one.
Yeah, it's really incredible, and the work you've done has certainly helped to push the envelope forward. I think, just in terms of there's a lot of groups out there researching, but you've really coordinated with a lot of individuals around the nation. Is that national or is it international?
It can be international sometimes.
Okay.
We have it's mostly North America as far as the investigations go, but something comes up overseas, I'm there.
Sure. Yeah.
We can work it. That's no problem. And I have done cases overseas, especially hauntings and such. And, we do a lot of different stuff online, but, we kind of go with what we get.
Yeah.
Of course, when you do get cases that sometimes last longer than you ever envisioned them lasting, just like what's going on in Chicago and such, I never expected that to be 6-year project, if not more, and maybe an 11-year project now.
Wow.
But it's like it's the cryptid that keeps on giving, and we just keep going at it. And as long as people keep seeing these things and reporting them, we're going to look into it. And that's just like anything else we do. And of course, we do local cases and nationwide cases. And the team I have that works with me, we have right now, I think, about 20 boots on the ground investigators plus another 35 affiliates. So if I do have a case, and I can usually find somebody to look into something to me if I don't have anybody on the team that can do it. So I try to get somebody to help a witness or a victim at any time. It's not always successful, but we do the best we can.
I was going to ask you, since you've got your finger on the pulse of so many of these different topics, what do you think is going on? Do you think is there a shift or a change? And this is a big, huge question, and I'm probably asking a lot of you by even asking you this, but is there more of this stuff happening nowadays than used to be happening?
Is there more going on now? I don't know. I don't think so. I think people are just more aware of it.
Okay.
And, but, over the years, it seems like, cryptozoology and the paranormal, is never going to be a moot point. There's always going to be something that pops up and take the place of something else that we've grown tired of, I guess. But no, it keeps me on my toes because I'm practically learning something new every day.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Here's, I think this is a question. It's by Connor. He says, why is there a lot of paranormal channels with fake demon videos? What's your take on that, Lon?
Well, the demon thing, I don't buy into the whole demon thing anyway. I look at evil as evil, and, they want to call it a demon, then find it and call it a demon. But that seems to be the catchphrase for everybody. Oh, it's a demon, or it has to be a demon or something. I don't know. that word gets thrown around so much, and it tires me out because honestly, when I see somebody mention, I saw a demon or a demon did this, I just my eyes kind of glaze over and I just kind of move on.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Because the word demon is more of a religious term as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
What is a demon? Well, if it's associated with evil, then fine. It's evil, but it's not necessarily what you want to call a demon.
Right.
There's a lot of bad things out there, but
yeah,
I'd say calling them all demons just isn't the best moniker for these things.
Sure. And I would say that I think the proliferation of that probably has a lot to do with clickbait because it sounds really, really cool. Like, oh my God, this isn't just a haunting. This is a demon video.
Yeah.
The whole clickbaity thing.
That's probably the one word that I use rarely, as opposed to any other word. In my descriptions or my case or my titles and anything, I don't like using that word demon.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also makes you wonder how are people determining that, just based upon activity. It's like, well, how come it's not a poltergeist, or how come it's not just an energetic spirit or a pissed off spirit? Why is it a demon? So right. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think you're absolutely right. But, I was going to ask you about the Bigfoot field. It's not something we've talked about a bunch, but I think, obviously there's probably, no more divisive term in research than Bigfoot. I think it's one of those things where there's very, very significant splits and edges and camps of thought in the Bigfoot community. How have you seen that evolve through the years?
Well, there's really just two camps. You have the flesh and blood camp where these people think that this creature is an indigenous species or being that's on our earth plane at all times. Mm-hmm. And then you have the others who believe that there's some type of supernatural aspect to these creatures. Mm-hmm. I'm in the latter because I just can't see how something that if these things live. Now, I'm not saying that there are not indigenous Bigfoot-like creatures.
Okay,
there are parts, I believe, in North America in particular, there are areas where they do live in groups, family groups, and such. Mm-hmm. Pacific Northwest, Florida, around the Gulf, and I think there are some areas where these beings are around. But I also believe that for the most part, these creatures are some type of interdimensional species or have an ability to either cloak or move about mm-hmm. and move within worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's argument for both. And, having talked with people that have allegedly seen them just disappear in front of their eyes, like in a field. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what do you do with that? So it's a tough one for me because I guess I feel like I have to conceptualize this on at least some level as much as I can in order to process it. And I just hit a wall when I when I think of this apparently very, very, primitive being that somehow has this mastery of transdimensional mechanics and matter. And it's like, well, wow, did we draw the short stick on that one?
Well, I don't think it's limited to Bigfoot either. I think most cryptids has some type of supernatural ability to them. Even though it's mostly anecdotal evidence, mm-hmm. but if you do get serious about it and sit back and look at it and think about it, there are, I'm just going back to what's been going on in Chicago, and then of course with the overall winged humanoid phenomena. Of course, I had an encounter in '88 with something very similar to that. I had a Bigfoot encounter in '81. Oh. So I believe these creatures are out there, but I'm not necessarily with us at all times.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of strange cryptids, and this is one that really freaks me out personally, and I don't know why. I'm not sure why, but something about it, because it's not the biggest cryptid. It's not the most foreboding, but something about them just feels so creepy, and it's the white crawlers. Those mm-hmm. things to me, the rakes, the ghouls, whatever, moniker they have, something about them really freaks me out. What's your take on those, Lon? Because there's not a lot out there about them, but the reports come in.
I wrote a book about it, and I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there have been so many sightings, especially in the past decade or so. Uh-huh. But it's mostly all anecdotal. There have been some photographs or some videos taken of these things that some I do believe are valid. Mm-hmm. But what they are, where they come from, why they're here or why they're being seen, I just don't know.
Yeah.
It is a crazy subject. I'm hopefully we're going to be able to figure something out eventually, mm-hmm. but it just continues on, and it's one of those creatures that just people see it in all different places at different times, and it just pops up. Mm-hmm. So I believe it's also a supernatural being.
Okay.
Cryptid, yeah. Humanoid, yeah. Is it extraterrestrial? Who knows? I know.
Sure.
What is it?
Right.
And like I said, I wrote a book, and I still don't know what it is.
I mean, it's one of those enigmas for me too. As far as what I've gleaned from the little bit that I have read about them is that they seem to be these emaciated, naked things running around in all kinds of weather and in exposures, which immediately makes you go, well, how? But so I guess that does lend to the supernatural aspect, I would think, because, if it's alive and subsisting, it probably should have some kind of padding or warmth, but, somehow they subsist without it. But do you think that they're dangerous?
I don't know. I haven't really seen or heard of any instances where I would consider them being mortally dangerous.
Okay.
I think the sight of them themselves is dangerous enough. I mean,
yeah.
Seeing something like that out there in the middle of nowhere just really, freaks people out, of course.
Yeah.
But, with that phenomena, I think many of the cryptid phenomena and even paranormal and the whole 9 yards, I think there's connections somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we get down to it at some point where we start to get more information on one phenomena, maybe two, that we can start connecting it together with other phenomena and maybe start getting some answers.
Yeah.
Do we want answers? I don't know. I guess we do.
Yeah.
I keep saying that I'm out looking for answers. Well, yeah, I am, but but I don't think it's ever going to end.
Yeah. I think you're right. One of our chatters, Luna Moonicorn, says, I think they're cave dwellers who somehow get to the surface. Like a subterranean thing. Wow.
It may be. Yeah. I mean, there have been instances where they just suddenly show up.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason as to how they got there and why they got there. Are they portal travelers? Maybe. Do they live underground? Possibly.
Yeah.
Are they extraterrestrial? Who knows?
Well, it seems, it's just one of those things that I guess the descriptions kind of don't sound like a real far cry from what a lot of gray descriptions are, but they do crawl around and generally speaking, you don't hear that in terms of, sightings of grays and encounters with grays. They're pretty much standing upright. I think, again, I'm not an encyclopedia of this stuff, but that's just what occurs to me. But, yeah, I think they're just really weird. And what do you think do you think that it's probably the same thing as what we understood ghouls to be and the rake? And is this all the same phenomena, just with different labels?
Yeah, that's basically it.
That's what
it's, the whole crawler humanoid phenomena was based on a meme, basically. It was something that was contrived on the internet and evolved into something that may very well be a thought form.
Oh, a tulpa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, that was the name of my book, The Meme Humanoids, because I went back and looked at, as far back as like the Dover Demon and of course with, Slender Man and a few other of these creatures or what people consider to be the crawlers. Mm-hmm. And they used all kinds of names, Fleshgate, Rake, all kinds of,
Oh.
I think all in all they're the same thing, but I think that, for the most part, these may be memes.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting take. Yeah. I think that's phenomenally profound because, I really think that I think we as beings that are spiritual as well as physical, we do manifest our lives around us. And certainly why not, I believe that many hauntings, I think, could be very well projections of the people and not necessarily an independent phenomena. Obviously everybody knows about the poltergeist phenomena, right. But I think, I don't know. It just seems to me that, we're, whatever these things are, we're a profound part of all of them. The one common denominator seems to be us, that for there to be an encounter, there has to be a human being.
It is us.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we're the key, right?
Right. I mean, if it wasn't for us, nobody nothing would recognize it because,
Right.
I do, I put a lot of stock into thought forms and tulpas and that type of phenomena. Of course, you mentioned poltergeist. Well, that's what a poltergeist is. It's basically a thought form that's manifested unconsciously by a living being, a living human.
Right.
And many times the person who's manifesting this entity has no idea they're doing it. And they, they're just as confused as everybody else. It's a tough, when you get a poltergeist case, it's really tough because basically you can't really do a whole lot for them. You can coach them and explain the phenomena to them, but the other ones it's got to work it out. I mean, they got to put themselves in a place where they're not unconsciously manifesting this entity. And that's the tough part about it. Poltergeist cases, real poltergeist cases are really tough. And they're never cut and dry, and they always last a long time. And but it's just a matter of going in to a location. And there's a lot of factors behind it, dysfunction in a family or raging hormones or whatever. There's always a reason behind it. And that's what you got to first determine, then work it out from there. And, but I have been involved with a few poltergeist cases over the years. And, it takes time, but it's something that the person themselves has to work out.
Isn't that something? I guess it probably is pretty incredible because, again, what's being demonstrated is some facet of us that we aren't really in touch with, but it's a part of us. And I think that's empowering, right? It's one thing to look at all of this stuff and just think, oh, we're victims. We just run into this stuff and then we have to deal with it. We're out of control. But it's a whole nother thing to say, hey, wait, maybe we're facilitating this in some subconscious way. And then it's empowering. Yeah,
absolutely.
Wow.
The human mind's strange. It's very interesting with some of the stuff that comes up and, and maybe one day we'll realize that all this stuff we're seeing, cryptids and everything, are all my manifestations. And we're going to really be going crazy.
Right. One of our chatters says, I wonder if these crawlers are actual people that died and chose to come back as scary crawlers, which I don't necessarily believe. Do you think there might be a spiritual connection with those, or do you think they're just exactly what they are? They're just some kind of beast out there.
That's a hard one. That's a hard question to answer. I don't know. I would. I'm not discounting that it could be. Right. There may be a spiritual connection to it. I think there's. I think a lot of phenomena, cryptid and otherwise, is got a spiritual aspect to it. We have not necessarily proven it, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the paranormal is has a fine line between each parts of it. And it's very unusual, even especially nowadays, when you go into a case and you're doing the investigations and something else pops up that you just didn't really expect. I kind of go into every case expecting anything to happen.
Right.
That's just the way it is nowadays. Maybe it was like that before, but it wasn't. I don't think we had the temerity to look into things like that. We looked at one thing and that was it. But, there's a lot of different factors involved now when you look into a case.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I think it's, it's dealer's choice probably on that deal. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
We have a comment or a question in our chat from Rachel Gets It Right. She's one of our mods. Said, could some of these single sightings of the more strange beings be other dimensional residents ending up on Earth, like a 411 victim disappears from Earth going to another dimension?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
See how
just like, I go back to Chicago, the Chicago Mothman or Chicago winged humanoid phenomena. I don't believe those are indigenous beings. I think they come in from another reality. Maybe not reality, but another dimension, another linear dimension to our dimension.
Okay.
Our Earth plane. I think they have the ability to move between those levels. And, I don't think it's any different than a lot of other cryptids. I think that's just the way things are. We might not completely understand it, but, I think it is what it is. I mean, and, until we get more concrete evidence, then, we're basically just winging it right now, but we do the best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the problem with any of this, is that this is all foreign to our reality that we know. Right. It's all these pieces and parts of strangeness that somehow manifest in our world. And I agree with you. I think I believe that, I believe in the whole multiverse idea and multidimensional, of course. They've mathematically proven that there's other dimensions. So I guess, that's a foregone conclusion. But, I wonder about, things like, and I'm sure you've bumped into these stories too, but it seems to demonstrate that our realities do bleed into some other realities somehow. And the stories I'm speaking of specifically in this point are the hikers. They're on a path. They're a well-worn path. They've been down hundreds of times before, and they suddenly find themselves somewhere else. Like after, into unfamiliar surroundings. Day could be night, night could be day. It could be, warm and sunny, and then go to rainy and stormy in a heartbeat. And even the visual surroundings are different. And it's like, well, what the hell just happened? And and these could be just creative writing. I don't know. It's never happened to me, but generally speaking, the theme is the people basically back up and then they're where they should be. So it seems like there's these nodes or these bubbles of bleed through every once in a while. And it makes you wonder, it's how much is our reality rigid and how much of it is very fluid and interacting with other realities, and you get these maybe blurred points where that can happen. Well,
I have a theory, and I don't know how true it is or how it's going to pan out, but I believe at some point where quantum computing becomes more consumer oriented, where people can afford it and actually start using the technology, I think we're going to start getting answers when that happens. I think much of what we question now may actually start showing up when that time comes. It's liable to be a while yet, but if you do look at quantum computers and the availability of them now, they're becoming more and more consumer grade. And I think if it gets to the point where the general public can start working on this technology, using it, and then using it as far as looking into, unknown or unexplained phenomena, maybe we'll start getting some answers.
Right. Very cool. I think you're right. I don't really know that much about quantum computing other than it sounds like it's much, 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 multiples, more powerful than anything we've ever worked with before. We've got a few questions and I'm losing them as they're scrolling up here. It said, no, not that one. There was one, somebody asked if you have is that Edgar Allan Poe behind your head?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
That's Sam Sheeran's artwork back there.
Wow, it's beautiful.
He I don't know if you know who Sam is, but he's kind of a crypto artist, dark arts artist, horror artist. He's done a lot of book covers, especially for David Weatherly and his books. But I think his stuff is great.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And,
yeah.
He did some artwork for the Chicago Mothman, and so I started getting more and more interested. And the Edgar Allan Poe. Of course, I lived most of my life in Baltimore, so I know the whole thing, and I'm very interested in his life and some of the crazy stuff about and legends about him. But it is Edgar Allan Poe.
Very cool. And then Miss Firejack says, have you ever been in or through a portal? What do you know about them?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
My experience with portals is just based on cases I've been involved with, especially hauntings for the most part. I have been involved with a few cases where portal activity has been present. And, different people sense these things in different ways. When I'm near a portal or I know there's one around, I am an intuitive, and I've been intuitive as long as I can remember. Mm-hmm. But I get a buzzing sensation or buzzing sound when I'm around one.
Oh, okay.
And there have been cases where I've been involved with a haunting case where these things would just show up. As far as a physical manifestation, one of these things, no, I can't say I've actually seen one. Yeah. But I believe that they are present, and I think they are exactly what people think they are, the gateway into another dimension or another world. So
can you explain how does a person how do you decipher that you're dealing with a haunting with a portal aspect versus just a traditional haunting with without that?
Oh, I think most hauntings have that portal aspect to them. It's just that it's hard to realize that's what it is. But, hauntings come in all shapes and sizes, and there's a lot of factors involved with. I've been involved with supposed haunting cases that had something to do with extraterrestrials, or other worldly beings, or something we just can't understand or explain. As far as the portals themselves, like I said, I've never really seen one. I just sense something opening up, sense something around me. Mm-hmm. And then when I start getting evidence, either audio, sometimes audio, maybe visual evidence of something coming into a room or coming into a space, that's normally how I can pick up on it. And I do have that ability. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but I do have that ability. I mean, there's certain places that it's just really tiresome for me to go through it or go to, like antique stores, attachments in antique stores, or funeral homes, or even cemeteries. Yeah, it's just really, it's almost like these energies are trying to get your attention. And basically, that's what a haunting is. A haunting is an energy trying to get the attention of the living. Right. That's that's why it really bugs me when these people go into a location and start demanding that these things would show up and answer them and this and that. Yeah. That's just, that's just ridiculous in my mind. Sure. And quite frankly, most of the haunting cases or attachment cases that I've been involved with over the years are people who get attachments from thinking they're paranormal investigators.
I believe you. Yeah.
They can really pick up some nasty ones too.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of my toughest cases have been, from people who have picked up a real bad attachment from going to a location and calling out entities and spirits and such, and they get what they're asking for.
Sure. Yeah, I guess.
And they drag it home, then things start happening.
Did you bring Rosie home with you? Is that what you did?
No, we just got done. It's kind of funny that you said that, because we just got done investigating St. Ignatius, the haunted hospital in Colfax, Washington, and it was, we don't go in there demanding anything. We just say, hey, we're coming with, love and respect, and just wondered, do you have any messages? Just trying to make what I hope is meaningful contact, because it is kind of a sad thing, and maybe it's just our perception of it, but I always perceive these personalities that are stuck in a place and they're silent. There's nobody listening to them, and maybe they have, maybe they're lonely. And like you said, a lot of hauntings are just spirits wanting to make themselves known to the living. And I thought that was a very profound statement, because I think you're absolutely 100% unequivocally right that I don't think most often these things start out with evil intentions. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that it's just that. It's like, hey, I'm here. I'm in your space. You're in my space. And I want you to know that I'm here. And it seems to me like maybe a beautiful gesture, really. But I guess when you see a cereal bowl move, it's just a paradigm shift. And then you've got to process that. And that's where that becomes creepy and scary. And then everything becomes a demon.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's why I get tired of hearing the demon phrase all the time, because, somebody notices one small unexplained activity and, it's a demon, or it's something that's trying to harm me and my family, or this and that. And, it's interesting, some of the stuff you run up against. Yeah. I have been involved with all kinds of different cases, and even including those that were attended by clergy.
Oh, okay.
And that's probably the most interesting aspect of all this, because I have seen more priests run out of homes than I have anything else. I don't know what it is, and even non-Catholic as well. People bring pastors and stuff in there. I don't know if they believe that because they're ordained that they can just come in there and do certain things.
Oh, sure.
Or they have the answers to everything.
Right.
But I have literally seen a few of them that have had the wit scared out of them and just literally run out of a location.
I guess they didn't respect all of the power of their mantle.
Right.
Well, I think a lot of them are shocked at what was going on. I don't know if they necessarily believe in the paranormal.
Sure. Yeah.
But then again, that's how most true believers start. They were non-believers and they saw something and then became true believers.
Right. Yeah. Very good. We got another question from our chat from Jessica Mink, and Jess asks, did any of those strange beings ever follow you home? And if so, how did you get rid of them?
I usually protect myself fairly well. Mm-hmm. And this is something I just don't do once in a while. It's like every day.
Yeah.
I use different types of methods of surrounding myself in light, extending my auras, golden light, white light, and using the energies that I can manifest to protect me. Mm. And I use other things as well. I use crystals and such. It just depends on the situation. But, I've been doing this for so long now. I mean, it's almost like second nature to me. Mm-hmm. I use affirmations each and every night before I go to sleep, and when I wake up, I mean, it's like old habit now, but it's something that I've found that I need to use to feel safe.
Right.
And look, I have been involved with cases, especially remote view cases, where I have literally been psychically attacked.
Wow.
Yeah, there were two in particular. There was one. And I used to work with another individual who was actually a trained remote viewer. She worked for the British government. Mm-hmm. And we used to do haunting cases together. And now she was living in Wales at the time, but we did a lot of stuff online. But she would monitor, and I would do the actual remote view. Well, anyway. There were two cases where she actually had to pull me out because I was being attacked.
Wow.
We did a haunting up in Prince Edward Island.
Oh, sure.
This has been over a dozen years ago. And that case, the entity literally attacked me and cut me. I had a laceration from the top of my sternum down to my belly button.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Like physically,
physically.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I mean, it just appeared. It's like the thing, it came through the phone line or whatever it came through, it literally manifested to me, and it left a laceration on my chest.
Oh my God.
There was another instance on another case where we worked where, I was right in the middle of a view. I don't know what phase I was in, but it felt like something kicked me in the side.
Oh.
And, it got so bad. I had to go to the hospital because I had bruised ribs.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the physical manifestations, psychic attacks do happen.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you've got to learn to protect. And look, I when I do this type of thing now, I really protect myself. And I insist that people that are with me protect themselves as well.
Right.
And, it's proven to be helpful. So you don't want to be in the middle of a case and something major happens that,
So would you say that when these attacks happened, you weren't protecting yourself as well back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just going in, cowboying it up and yeah.
Well, it was at a point where I hadn't been doing it for many years.
Sure. Okay.
And, I thought I was protecting myself, but evidently I wasn't to the degree I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So, there have been a lot of different factors involved with the way I am now. I I use all kinds of level of protection.
Yeah.
And, so I it's kind of standard with me now.
Now, did these cases get resolved, or did you just go, nope, I'm done with these, or how did they go?
They got resolved.
Wow. So the one
and I tell you, that's probably the best feeling that you can get when you resolve a case like that, when you either move this entity on to another level
mm-hmm.
or minimize it to the point where the person can actually live with it.
Oh, okay.
But some of these cases get pretty intense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I worked the case, and I don't know, I've got a video up on YouTube. I call it the Sioux City entity case. But it was a haunting, attachment, and a lot of other stuff that worked through the years with these sisters who were the family was just being inundated with this energy, and I literally worked on that case for over a decade till it was resolved.
That's incredible. That's a long term.
And sometimes it takes a long time.
Yeah. I don't know, I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around how do you really resolve those kind of things, but what you're saying is that you continue to work with this intelligence and try to get it to back down, or, I mean, does it work out as almost an agreement that you're able to reach with this thing, or is it a banishment, like, be gone? That kind of thing.
I think you got to get to the point where you wear it down.
Yeah. Okay.
In other words, you got to take what's feeding it away from it. Now, if you let's just talk about that case in particular. There's a lot of dysfunction in the family. There's a lot of stuff going on. Everybody in the family were beacons. They all had abilities.
Oh, okay.
So whatever this thing was, it was attracted to them right off the bat. Even when they had moved to various locations, it kept following them around.
Sure.
It affected different parts of the family, even the children. And that's another thing that I do a lot of working with kids.
Okay.
I mean, of course, with the parents' permission and stuff.
Sure.
I have worked with several kids who have had psychic abilities that I would later recognize, and then I would talk to the parents about, and because the kids had questions, they were seeing stuff, they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And, many times before I'd even say anything, the parents would ask, well, can you work with my child and try to explain to them what's going on? And that has happened on many occasions.
Oh, that's cool.
I am proud to say that there are at least 3 individuals who I worked with as children who are now recognized psychics.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is really neat. In these dysfunctional cases, you are, would you say then that those negative energies do feed these negative vibrations? Is that a fair assessment? I mean, it's kind of
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Dysfunction, family dysfunction is probably the number one source of this type of energy. And they feed off that. And another thing is that if it's an area where there's a lot of non-living energy, certain entities can feed off that as well.
Okay. Now, is that in terms of like prisons, hospitals that are defunct or whatever? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In that case in Sioux City, it was an airline crash.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, we were fortunate to recognize that very early on. And, it eventually led to us being able to, wear this thing down and try to keep the energies, the life forces of these dead passengers from feeding this entity.
Oh, okay.
It was I tell you, I suggest people go to it either on my blog or just search Sioux City entity.
Okay.
And in Phantoms of Monsters or somewhere. And I've got a video out on it, though it's in the membership video, but I've also written about it several times. But it's a case I probably learned more from that case than any other I've been involved with.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm just glad you're able to find resolutions because, especially when you're dealing with, other people, these are largely unaware of what's going on, but they got something just tormenting them. So that's really cool that you've been able to be instrumental in restoring their lives and probably their sanity, because it's so strange. And I've experienced many haunting events, in my life as well. And there's a period of time where you kind of like, am I broken? What's going on here? Why are these weird things happening? But, I've simply since come to terms with, through, learning and growing spiritually, mentally, and physically. But it's such a strange journey. And there's no signposts. Like, if you want to learn to drive, you go, there's a formula for it. If you want to go to, become a doctor, there's a formula for it. But this is the kind of stuff that it's really obscure and it's wrapped in superstition, belief, dogma, and there's so many pathways in this. So that's where it becomes kind of convoluted, I think.
Well, I think one thing that I learned from the very beginning, or close to the beginning, was to use what is available to me.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in angels. Mm-hmm. And I believe that these beings, and they're not with the biblical version with the winged being and all that. That's just nonsense.
Okay.
These are non-human beings that are part of each and every one of us. Mm. And I have. It's something I've become more and more serious about as time has gone by, to use my angels to help me. Oh. And I advocate that to anyone, to use their angels, call them guardian angels or whatever, sure, guides, to help you achieve what you need. And don't be afraid to demand either.
Oh, really?
Because that's what they're there for. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I tell people that, and they look at me like, demand. I mean, what am I going to do? Get it upset and it'll leave? No, that's what they're there for.
Okay.
And, you and I talked before we started the show tonight. And, I told you all the crap I've been going through physically and all this other stuff for years. Mm-hmm. I don't believe I would be around if I wasn't for my angels.
Yeah. You had an incredible serendipitous path on that, though, too. I mean, that was pretty amazing. So I would have to agree, just in hearing your narrative. It's like everything came exactly the right point to bring you to the next level and to take care of something else. It was just really incredible. And that's really inspiring, too. You know, I guess the world's not done with you yet, Lon.
Well, we'll see.
No, I think this is fascinating because, actually in all the times that we've talked, we generally haven't really talked about the spiritual stuff. And I hadn't realized what a big part of your world this was. Of course, because Phantoms and Monsters is generally dealing with mostly the Fortean topics. So that's really neat that there's this other. Can I ask you, how do you speak with your angels? Because I think that's fantastic advice. But is there a methodology you use for that, or is it just, hey, angels, get to work?
Yeah, basically that's what it is. I use a lot of affirmation doing that. But I haven't gotten to the point where I can kind of sense when they're around or when I need to ask for something. Mm-hmm. And when I say ask for something, I literally vocally ask for something.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily ask, I demand. Mm. And, like if there's something bothering me, there's something I know is wrong, I insist on getting answers. Oh. And many times and in curious ways, they do manifest. And, I've been pretty damn lucky. I really have been.
Yeah.
I really have.
Yeah. No, I think that's fascinating. And it's neat to hear you say that because, of course, I've had many guests, and one of them is Deborah Varner, our paranormal portal psychic. She comes on. She often talks about that, your guides and your angels.
We're actually talking about it in chat right now.
Oh, are you? Yeah. I mean, so that's a perfect reinforcement of that. And I don't think it's necessarily new, but I think everybody needs the reminders because I have to tell you, for me personally, I always think of these guardian angels as, someone that's, like I'm the toddler and they're the parents, kind of thing. Like, oh, geez, he's about to hit a ditch, move him over, not, hey, to address them directly and just say, hey, what are you guys doing? Let's get this done. Come on, I need this. That to me is really inspiring. I think that's a cool angle.
I have talked to people who are involved in the paranormal and been deeply involved with the paranormal for a long time. Uh-huh. And many times when I tell them that, they look at me like, what are you talking about? You can't demand anything from your angels. Sure you can.
Yeah.
That's how things get done. You are a master of your own reality. I mean, and I don't know how many times people said, oh, you're just talking to aliens or extraterrestrial. Maybe that's what they are. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's another great take because if you, even just biblically speaking, if you go back and read the biblical accounts of angels, they don't look like the flowery, feathery beings.
No.
They look like, what, are you serious? A ball of eyes? Yeah, okay.
I've challenged quite a few people to, to the idea that angels are just another being that was created, that God sent out to, seed the universe, whatever that may be, whether it be the Earth or Mars or whatever. And they're like, well, I guess if you think of it that way, it's like, so they could be aliens, correct? And they're like, I suppose they could. So there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, you think.
I do believe it. Look, I'm not a religious person. Mm. I am far from it. I've been, of course, I was raised in a very conservative, evangelical faith, but, I started getting more practical as I got older.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe that there is a higher being. Who or what it is, I don't know. But I think there is one.
Yep.
I don't think we can really define it, but I think there is a supreme energy or a deity or whatever you want to call this thing that does not necessarily control things. It's kind of the custodian of things.
Yeah, yeah.
And when it comes to angels and other what people would call gods or such. I think they may very well be extraterrestrial, or what we deem as extraterrestrial.
Sure.
But I think, nonetheless, I think they're here to help us, and I know they're here to help us.
Right. No, I think you're right, and there again, I mean, what do we know about extraterrestrials? Absolutely nothing.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
All that we know is they come in these from allegedly very far away, and they're riding lights and they're doing things that aren't supposed to be possible. And some people believe they're transdimensional. Some people believe they're from the stars. Some believe they're from the inner earth and any other place you can think of. But we don't know anything about them. So, I don't think that one is necessarily degrading of the other, because we don't really know anything about angels either. So I think that's a great argument. Yeah.
So Spirit Stalker 53 says, do you believe in the devil then?
I believe in evil.
Okay. Fair
now,
enough.
If it's one particular being that's the root of the evil, then fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe that there's, devil or
Sure.
Satan or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, that it was a fallen angel. Maybe there were fallen angels. I don't know.
Sure.
None of us really know. All we can do is read what's in the Bible, and if you want to believe that, if you've got faith, then fine, and that's your thing. But I'm not saying I don't necessarily have faith, but I think I believe something a little bit different than most people.
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And I got to tell you, I think one of my other pet peeves, one of the first that we've discussed so far tonight, is the overuse of the word demon, which I'm absolutely on board with everything you said. It just gets brutalized and abused. But the other thing is this omniscient devil thing. I don't believe that if there is this evil, that it's omniscient like God, I don't, or whatever, the divine, the universal light, whatever. I don't think that evil is omniscient in that same regard, but it's often regarded with an omniscience and almost a deity, and that to me is like, oh, let's not look at it like that. So I think, just saying evil is absolutely correct. I mean, there is evil. Yeah.
And look, I'm fascinated with religion. I mean, I really am. I can sit here and watch shows about dogma and all day long,
Mm-hmm.
And, it's interesting how so many different religions touch on the same thing, but they're basically, they're coming from a different world. I mean, coming from a different light of seeing things. And, but basically it's all the same thing.
Sure.
And it's good versus evil. And, if that's the terms you want to look at it, then fine. But I just believe there's something more to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think you're right. I think that's very profound, but I do enjoy knowing this part of you as well. I mean, it's, like I said, this is the first time we've kind of gone down this road, but it's absolutely fascinating to me. And I think it's also getting back to where we kind of started, where you said, hey, I think a lot of this stuff is interrelated. And I think you're right, because I guess when you look at all of this, it all breaks down to energies. Even
Mm-hmm.
all of matter on its most fundamental form is energy. And so, I guess it makes sense that energy has maybe a certain set of rules, to some degree, that it has behaviors and it has expression, and it has to follow that energetic expression, whatever those guidelines are. So I think you're right, though. I think there is a real bleed through all of this, because so many extraterrestrial accounts, especially with abduction, sound very close to spiritual encounters, and so many Bigfoot encounters sound almost spiritual, as well as Dogman and any of the other weird things out there. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. So hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you again so much for all your love and support. Remember, if you want to follow the Paranormal Portal, probably the easiest way is to head over to paranormalportal.net, and that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal, and you'll find links to all of our different social media and sites and information about the shows, including our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paranormal portal, or just look for Paranormal Portal on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find links to our social media such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we're kind of all over the place. We're spreading as well as we can. But anyway, thank you so much for the love and support. Y'all take care, and remember, we love y'all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Until next time.
Well, the only time she really turned with that famous was when I rode across the creek and got down off the horse. She turned to look at me.